Canada is a very special place. Canada's absolutely one of the worst. Canada's been very bad to us. Canada's very tough. You know, we're not treated well by Canada. Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years. People don't realize Canada is one of the toughest negotiators. Canada's very, very tough. You know, we love Canada. We think of the beautiful song and the ice hockey games. Oh, Canada, isn't it beautiful? But in the meantime, they knock the hell out of us. Canada, very, very tough. Very, very tough. Canada's been tough on the military. And they're very tough. And they're not at all nice. But we've made them nice. We've made them nice. Canada, who is very tough to negotiate. You know, we think of, oh, Canada. Oh, Canada's tough. They're tough. Canada's been very tough to deal with. Canada.
I ran past this Canadian flag over here. And amidst all the hate that Canada's getting, there's a few words that I did want to say. 25 years ago, my family came to this country. We came here because that flag and that country was the only one that would take us. The only one that would take us from the aftermath of a bloody war, living as refugees in the basement of a shitty apartment building. This is the only country that took us in. I may not be born here, but I am Canadian. And you should be proud to be a Canadian. There isn't many countries like this. In the midst of all the bullshit that we are going through, and yes, it's hard. But I don't think most of you know what real hard is. Just count yourselves lucky. All right? Just count yourselves lucky.
And so it is with no small amount of glee that I reveal that Alabama now has a higher standard of living than Canada.
Wait, this is Canada? It's the same as the US. I mean, yeah, it's cool, I guess, but they barely have accents. I just thought the people here would look a little more foreign. Sir? I mean, all they have is ketchup, chips, and weird money. I mean, yeah, it's nice. You know, it's not bad, but I just don't get... I love it here.
The obsession that MAGA has with Canada is mind-bending, especially when you consider the fact that this was all born out of a few hostile words from Donald Trump. This is an argument that's been ongoing for about a week now. I don't know how it got started. I don't care. It is unbelievably stupid. Well, I shouldn't say unbelievably. There is not a single metric or category that you can measure when it comes to standard of living, Canada and Alabama, where Alabama beats Canada. It's simply not a thing. When you look at income and purchasing power, Canada wins, hands down. When you look at poverty rates, it's not even close. Canada has better poverty rates than the entire United States, much less Alabama, who has a poverty rate over 15%. Inequality? Not even close. Healthcare? Are you serious right now? People in Canada live nearly 10 years longer than people from Alabama. That is insane. And of course, Canada just decimates Alabama in education, which is probably the whole reason that I'm able to make this video right now. And of course, they also win on safety and infrastructure. Now, let's look at this a little bit deeper, shall we? Instead of looking at the entire country of Canada versus the state of Alabama, let's look at the poorest and most impoverished part of Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador. Because on paper, Newfoundland and Labrador is basically the Alabama of Canada. And guess what? While the numbers are a little bit closer, Newfoundland and Labrador still beat Alabama in all of those categories, even poverty. The absolutely most impoverished and poorest place in the entire country of Canada, which Canada is a giant country, is better off than Alabama. The idea that Alabama, which ranks near the bottom in the United States, hey, They don't even beat Oklahoma, okay? The idea that they're better than Canada blows my mind. I said it once, I'll say it again. College football is not a metric or a standard that you can use for quality of life.
I'm an American who moved to Canada with my family 2 years ago. I get a lot of people asking about the differences between living in the two countries, so I thought I'd do a little series. I'll talk about cultural differences first, but stick around if you want to hear about the affordability or healthcare situations. So, disclaimer, I spent most of my life in the Midwest US, but I've been all over, and now I live in British Columbia. Not trying to claim people from either country are a monolith, just gonna talk about my experiences. Religion is a big one. In America, Christianity was pretty woven into the fabric of everyday life. It was the default religion. Here in Canada, I see plenty of churches, mosques, and synagogues, but it's more of a personal thing that doesn't come up often in day-to-day conversation. Politicians don't really talk about their religion much in Canada either, which is cool. As a father of young girls, when I was out alone with my kids in the USA, it was pretty common to get stares, little old ladies asking me if I needed help, people congratulating me on quote-unquote babysitting, and so on. That doesn't really happen here in Canada. Nobody bats an eye at a dad being a dad. Gun culture is a big one. There's a whole day of mourning in Canada for the 14 women who were killed at a university in 1989. The US has almost 100 times as many school shootings as Canada, so there just wasn't the same sort of unanimous social grief for gun violence victims. I'm not a gun guy myself, so I really like living in a place where you don't see stuff like people carrying handguns to church or armed guards in grocery stores. Living here recently has been interesting, to say the least, because after Trump started the 51st state thing, Canadians really rallied together in a way that reminded me, strangely, of post 9/11 America. Boycotts are still happening. You go to grocery stores and all the stuff from Canada is labeled. American liquor was just straight up yanked off the shelves. Canadians are incredibly kind, but you'd have to be an idiot to mess with them. These folks will never forget the past several months, and getting targeted ads from Disney World or Las Vegas begging them to resume normal tourism is just making them dig in their heels more.
Canada has one superpower that is often overlooked, and that power is global reputation. Canada is consistently ranked as the #1 most reputable country out of 195 countries on Earth. You may think this ranking doesn't do anything other than making us feel good, but that's not true. Being the most reputable means every country's welcome business opportunities from Canada. People still trust Canada to be a fair, reliable, and predictable business partner, so governments and businesses are willing to make long-term deals and deepen relationship with us. And in the age of protectionism and instability, that means a lot. And frankly speaking, Canada does have what everyone wants. We are the 4th biggest exporter of oil, #1 exporter of canola, major exporter of seafood and meats, major exporter of critical minerals, and #1 exporter of softwood timber. These are all valuable products everyone needs. So personally, I do think the future of Canada is limitless. We just need to play our cards right and use the reputation we've built to our advantage, capturing all the global business opportunities that are out there waiting for us.
Okay, so I'm French, but I've been living in Canada for about 10 years, and here are the 5 things that Canada does not get nearly enough hype about. So interestingly enough, I grew up knowing virtually nothing about Canada, and if it weren't for my guidance counselor in high school being Canadian, I probably wouldn't even live here. And something that I've realized is when I go home and talk about Canada, people are just like so unaware and oblivious about what this country has to offer. So this is my due diligence to promote Canada and all of its amazing things. Okay, the first one is Bulk Barn. I feel that even Canadians don't talk about Bulk Barn enough. I remember moving here and thinking that it was the most glorious thing I had ever seen in my life. Okay, the second one is just Canadians. Now, this one is very much spoken of, but I feel like it's more in a stereotypical way, and people don't know how real the stereotype actually is. Canadians are the most kind, apologetic, helpful people ever. And I come from France. We're the opposite of that. So moving here, I was struck with such like a wave of kindness and felt so accepted by Canadians. It just honestly still makes my day 10 years later. The third thing is cottage culture. Now, cottage culture took me 9.5 years to understand. I used to remember thinking like, why do people just have random houses on lakes so far away from everything? I get it. I have no further explanation because you need to live cottage culture to get it, but that's my third. Okay, number 4 is the Canadian Rockies. I took a trip to the Canadian Rockies about 4 years ago. I went all the way from Alberta to Vancouver Island, and it was one of the most stunning, like breathtaking trips I've ever taken in my life. And people don't decide to travel from Europe or even from Asia to the Canadian Rockies. I feel like they always prioritize the American West Coast, but I feel like it's such a mistake. And like, we could argue whether bringing more tourism to those areas is a good thing or not, and like, that's a whole other video. But I still think that people just don't hype it up enough. It blows my mind. This one might be very controversial and it might be a bit of recency bias, but I would say the political state of Canada is actually something that people don't hype up enough. And what I mean by that is, in today's world, I mean, it depends where you lean politically, but in today's world where our southern neighbors have a very complex political situation, I come from France. The political situation in France is an absolute nightmare right now. Anyways, you could compare it to a lot of different countries, but I find that for the most part, again, this could be very controversial, but in comparison to a lot of the other countries where I've lived, the political state of Canada is quite unproblematic. I mean, I say that I've only lived here for 10 years, so I've only seen like one party for the most part lead the country. But yeah, I would say it's rather unproblematic.
A lot of countries respect us.
Yeah, they respect us less.
I know Canadians who respect us.
Threatening to annex Canada got them to respect us more. Totally, you're right.
Respect us.
You are delusional. You live in a completely different world than everyone else. Canada does not respect us more. Canada definitely respects us less. A lot of people within Canada, they are boycotting American products because of this current administration.
Why? Because of the tariffs?
Because of the current administration, which includes the tariffs, yes, and Trump wanting to annex their country.
You live in a bubble, dude.
You live in a bubble, sir. You just thought Canadians respected our country more. You live in a MAGA bubble.
The first thing that caught my attention in recent conversations is that more and more people are making a very clear distinction between politics and the country itself. Someone may disagree with the Canadian government or oppose certain policies currently in place, yet still say that Canada is a country they would like to visit, live in, work in, or raise a family in. This is a very significant distinction. Governments may change from one term to the next, but people's impressions of a country are often shaped by their real-life, everyday experiences. When people talk about Canada, most of them do not focus solely on politicians or stories they have seen on television. They often talk about the Canadians they have met, the cities and communities they have visited, and the way they felt during their time there. Another topic that comes up repeatedly is quality of life. Many people speak about the sense of safety they feel in residential neighborhoods, the vast beauty of the natural landscape, the cleanliness of the cities, and the public services available to residents. In many discussions about desirable places to live, Canada is often mentioned as a country where people believe they could settle down for the long term and build a better future. Of course, that does not mean Canada is a perfect place. Canadians themselves are often very open about the challenges their country is facing. Housing prices have risen sharply in many cities. The cost of living continues to place greater pressure on households. Affordability has become a serious concern for many families, and wait times within the healthcare system are also frequently discussed. However, even when people are fully aware of these challenges, many still look towards Canada and think, I would still be very happy to have the opportunity to live there. That is truly a remarkable reputation. But there is something else that I find even more interesting. This is not a view that appears only in conversations among Americans. Whenever we watch or respond to comments from Europeans, Australians, or people from many other parts of the world, similar observations continue to emerge. They often describe Canada as a polite, friendly, and respectful country that is willing to welcome people from elsewhere. They talk about Canada's famous mountains, lakes, forests, and natural landscapes. They also mention the way Canada communicates, cooperates, and presents itself to the international community. When people from completely different backgrounds, cultures, and life experiences offer similar assessments, we begin to understand that Canada's positive image did not emerge by accident. That reputation has been built and strengthened over many years. Another thing that surprised me is that most of these discussions are not really focused on which political party is winning or which politician is in power. In the end, people usually return to questions that are far more personal and relatable. They think about where they would like to raise their children. They imagine a community where their families could feel safe. They care about whether they would be able to enjoy everyday life, connect with their neighbors, and feel respected. Most importantly, they want to know whether a country would make them feel welcome and give them a genuine opportunity to become part of its society. For most ordinary people, these things often have far greater long-term significance than political headlines that change from one day to the next. Perhaps that is why, even when relations between governments become strained or disagreements arise over trade, diplomacy, and public policy, the respect that many people have for Canada continues to be expressed time and again. I also believe that Canadians deserve recognition for the way they speak about their own country. One thing that is easy to notice is that most Canadians do not try to create the impression that everything in their country is wonderful. They are often willing to acknowledge the problems that exist. They talk about food prices, rental costs, the rising cost of living, the difficulty of purchasing a suitable home, and the pressure many young families are experiencing. They also openly debate the healthcare system, immigration, employment, and the future of major cities. They do not hide these issues, nor do they pretend that Canada has no problems that need to be addressed. What is particularly interesting is that this very honesty makes the praise from people outside Canada feel even more credible. People are not admiring a perfect version of Canada that exists only in their imagination. They are expressing respect for a country that faces real challenges and many complex issues, yet still manages to leave a positive impression on millions of people around the world. Ultimately, I think this story reminds us that a country's reputation is not built solely by its leaders or its government. That reputation is also shaped by ordinary people. It comes from the way they treat someone visiting their country for the first time, the way they help a newcomer settle into the neighborhood, the way they speak to people from different backgrounds, and the way they make others feel when they become part of their community. It is also shaped by the values a society chooses to share, by a spirit of mutual respect, and by the small but meaningful experiences that people carry with them after they leave. Political disagreements will certainly always exist. Governments will change, policies will be adjusted, and debates will never disappear entirely. However, kindness, respect, and a strong sense of community often leave a deeper and more lasting impression than any political argument. Perhaps that is why Canada continues to receive so much affection and admiration, even from people we might not initially expect to speak so positively about the country. Now, I would genuinely like to hear what you think. Have you noticed any changes in the way people have been talking about Canada recently? In your opinion, what has helped Canada maintain such a strong and positive image around the world, even during politically difficult periods or times of disagreement between countries? Please share your thoughts in the comments. I always enjoy reading the stories, experiences, and perspectives you send us, especially those from people who live in Canada or who have had the opportunity to visit the country. If you enjoyed today's reaction video, please remember to click the like button and subscribe to the channel if this is your first time joining us. Your support truly means a great deal. As always, thank you all for taking the time to watch. I will see you in the next video.